Hi everyone, we're going to have a go today at a photo of my daughter. This was taken on our holidays in Anglesey this last summer. It's quite a good one in that when you start doing figures it's quite nice to miss some of the figure that's the hardest bit. So this gives you a very good figure in the foreground. You haven't got a face. I'm actually going to show you how to chop off the hand as well, so you haven't got a hand, and you've just got to get the figure proportions in. So it's quite a nice easy one for you to start with. I'll pop this photo up so you can screenshot that off and print off if you want to, and then I'll pop a larger photo of my drawing. So really, if you go slightly bigger, then you can bring it so it crops that the hand is off the picture. And that gives you a very easy, starting with the head and the hat, to work down and get a nice shape. And then we've got a very simple background. So I'm on Saunders Waterford paper. It's a cotton paper, so it's going to give me plenty of time. And then I'll go through the colours as I'm working through. So we're going to start by getting a little bit of a sky in. I'm keeping to a limited palette today. I'm coming around the head, don't want to taint the hat. Okay, so I've got some ultramarine blue, just popping a little bit of water into that one. I'm just going to pop a little bit of water into each of these. So I've got a pea-sized blob of paint, and then about half a teaspoon of water, apart from a tiny bit of rose because I only need a tiny bit. So I'm going to start with the ultramarine blue. So I'm using a round number 10, just giving that a little bit of a mix. So I don't want this to be too strong. Coming on in a circular motion. So I'm going to get a little bit of a cloudy effect, but not too much. Can leave a few little bits of white. I'm going to keep everything nice and simple so the figure really stands out. So I'm just going to come carefully around the hat. So I've got a few little bits of white cloud in there. If I take a tiny touch of the rose, just so they get a little bit of a different colour in the sky. I don't like a sky to be one colour. I'm just going to wisp this through with little smiles, just so I've got some areas of rose in there. Okay, I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry. And for the purpose of you being able to see this, I have used some masking fluid that is blue. So what I've done with a knitting needle is just stroke down a few highlights in the hair, and I have gone dot, 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 dot with the knitting needle dipped in to create the dotty effect on the dress, and then I've dried that off. So what I'm going to start to do is go into the background now. So we're going to get a bit of a base on. So the sky's nice and dry. We'll do one side at a time because we've got a figure that's chopping this in half. So that gives us a good break point. So plenty of water on. Just coming around the hat. I'm going to start with some raw sienna. Pea-sized blob. into half a teaspoon of water. You're coming right the way up to the dress. And we're going to flow some of this in. Give that brush a bit of a rinse and dab off, and I'm just going to mix this sap green. So again, pea-sized blob to about half a teaspoon of water. So this is coming firstly above the raw sienna onto this lovely sort of green grassy bit. In fact, if I do this a little bit, it'll start to create a nice edge. So painting downwards. Just come round. Still using my round number 10. I will swap down to a round number 6 in a minute. And then I'm going to come in and just start to create a little bit of the grasses. So really what I'm thinking is base colour at the minute. So just a few strokes. Let it do some fluid stuff really. So rinsing my brush off, I'm going to come into the ultramarine blue. I'm just going to pop some in so I start to get some darker areas. This is all still very wet and very fluid. It's going to work really nicely. So I'm going to stroke down the line of the land here. And then I'm going to swap down to a number 6. Make sure that that's dry. I'm going to come in and create some of these little trees. Now at the minute they'll just look like they're connected to the grass, but then I'm going to come in with something a bit darker. So if I take a bit of the sepia, a bit of the sap green, a bit of the ultramarine, I want something that's got a greeny tinge to it but is more grey really. So I'm mixing those together, and then I can come in and pop this in these top areas where I want these trees to be. So I kick in the tripod. That's where I've got these tree areas here. Now it's running down because it's quite wet, but that's not a problem. So if I dry my brush off, I'm just going to come along with a damp brush and just stop that happening. So I'm just flowing through, and it sort of gives it a nice connection. There's a little bit of a tree thing happening in there because it's still quite damp. I'm just going to leave that to do that anyway. The sepia, again, a pea-sized blob with half a teaspoon of water. I'm going to come in and start to get some darker strokes. So we're just building this up. What's really nice, and this often, you can't see this in the picture, but it's artistic license, is if you actually put some dark around the figure, it will help her stand out. So we're going to do a little bit of artistic license here. Because we can. We're not working exactly to the photograph, we're doing our own version of it. I'm just going to pop a few little bits in here. And then as that settles, we're going to come and do the other side. I possibly put less water on this side because it seems to be very, very wet. Okay, so that's my water gone on. And then I'm going to come on with the raw sienna all the way up to the hair and the back of the dress. Come into the sap green. We'll have a few bits of green at the bottom. And then this lovely bit of green at the top. Carefully round the hat. Into the ultramarine blue. And you make this corner nice and dark. Bit of dark in there. Follow the line of the land. Get some shadow in. Then I've swapped down to a number 6 again. And come into a bit of sepia. And a little bit of dark around here again. It works so nicely. And then this greeny colour that we've mixed up, and I can bring that in to create this nice tree line. It's running less this side, but again I can still do that bit of damp brush and just come over it. So just let that settle a second. Okay, so then if I do my damp brush that's nearly dry, I have to flow from this way, I think. There we go. That just stops that happening. Just neaten up that area where the hat is. Now I'm just going to pop a little bit more dark in here. So those little bits of sepia will just help her stand forward. And in fact, I'm going to do a little bit here by the hat. Okay, so I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry now. So what I'm going to focus on now is just getting the base onto the hair. So this is my round number 10 dipped into the raw sienna. And I'm going to bring that over the hair. It's actually easier to do it this way so you visibly know where the hair is going before you come on with the dress. It's just helpful. Then you've got that little bit inside the hat as well. And then I'm going to pick up some sepia with my round number 6. So I'm just coming to the base of the cap. So I'm getting that nice edge. And I'm going to flow downwards. I get a really nice base colour. Now the hair is darker than you think. Remember, we're going to have those highlights coming through from the masking fluid, so you don't want to worry too much about it looking too blonde. So you've got a bit of the raw sienna and a bit of the sepia. Obviously don't go mad with the sepia unless you want the hair to be dark brown. You're really looking for the shadowed areas. Rinse my brush off. Also with the raw sienna, I'm going to start to come into the skin. So raw sienna or Naples yellow, great colours for skin, and then I'm going to show you how to warm that up. So I'm just taking a tiny bit of water in there so that it's not too strong. Oh, this is a bit of rose. We're going to bring that down the shadowed side of the arm. Just remember, you can take it off. So if you come on and you think, oh, that looks too strong, that's terrible, then just take it off. Just with a damp brush, a clean damp brush, it'll lift some of that off. Now for a sort of skin shadow colour, I tend to use a bit of the rose with a bit of the raw sienna. So I've taken some of that into the raw sienna, and then you want the tiniest bit of blue, and you'll end up with a mucky sort of brown colour, which is perfect for shadow. Just going to pop that on. We'll have a double shadow on the elbow, but this one at the minute is the soft shadow down the arm. Just checking we get it right into that spot. So this is all with my number 6. And I can let that dry. I've still got that bit of shadow colour to come in though with a double shadow. Okay, so I can also do the cap. So if I take a little bit of the rose and a dab of the blue, I'm going to make a nice purple. This is quite a watery purple, and the direction of the light's coming from the front, so we're going to start applying the colour at the back. The hair's about dry, so we're all right to do this. You've got a bit of a shadow here, so I'm picking that up, and a bit of a shadow here. This is all with my round number 6, and with some water I'm going to soften that in. So I'm basically taking water on and moving the paint a little bit. This is all going to then gel as one. Then we can put sharp shadow in later. If it starts to watermark, then just nip back over the area that's watermarking with a little bit of paint, and it'll hold together. Okay, so I'm going to dry that off. Okay, so that's nicely dry now. I'm going to come on with some Windsor Red. I am going to take a tiny bit of water in. This is just with my round number 10, and I'm going to work with my round number 6. It's a bit of a bigger area, so you want to ensure that it's going to flow. So I want to concentrate around the hair first of all. I'm painting into the hair where I can see bits of dress. So it's a little bit of negative painting really, just to bring out the dress itself. Nice neat edge. And coming over that masking fluid. It should be really nice and bold now, this dress. You've got the trick of getting really close to the arm. If you can see the tip of the brush, it makes it easier. So I've twizzled round. Now whilst we're doing this side, I'm going to dip into the sepia just so I start to get some shadow in here. Because it's nice to get a bit of soft shadow and then a little bit of harder shadow later. So I'm going to bring a bit round where the hair is. It's a bit at the back of the sleeve here. I haven't actually rinsed my brush out in between because I still want it to be quite red. So this is just picking up some of the sepia to make it darker and give a sense of shadow. So that's giving a good sense of shadow. If I rinse this out now, just going to take a little bit more water onto that section and we'll come onto this bit at the front. See the tip of your brush? You're going to get a nice edge to that arm. And then I'm going to have a little bit of shadow just along here. So you've already got the starting base of this shadow, and we can come back in when that's dry. You can also, if you want to lift out a little bit of light anywhere, in fact it would be better with around number 10, just check your brush is clean, dab it off, and whilst it's still wet you can lift little bits of light. So I'll lift a bit there. So it's quite useful for fabric folds because you can just stroke downwards and start to get the fabric fold. You just got to make sure every time that your brush is clean and dry again. If it runs back, it's because the paint's too wet and you need to come in again. But that'll give you some really nice fabric folds in there. In fact, I can even do one on this edge. Okay, so I'll dry that one off. Okay, so I've dried that really well, and then what I've done as well is I've come back in with the masking fluid. So I've added a little bit more to the hair and some grasses into the foreground here. So this is just going to build up a bit more detail where we want it. It'll become apparent as I take it off later anyway. So I'm going to come in with some sharper shadow now. So I'm going to start with this shadow on the skin colour. I've got that softer shadow. I'm going to come in and create the harder shadow. So it's just coming on with that same mix. Got that little bit on the elbow, a little bit round here, and a little bit just around the wrist there. So that's literally all you're going to need on there. With the sepia, I'm going to come in and create some sharper shadow on the dress. So the main bit being the bit under the arm here. You need to make sure that that's fairly dark for that to show. And then I'm going to leave this bit as softer shadow. You can accentuate this fold here a little bit and then pop a little bit of shadow just behind the arm. I think that works well there. So with a clean wet brush, I'm just going to soften in that one side. So I've got one hard edge and one soft edge. You could as well just take a little bit of sharper shadow, just stroked down where the hair might create a little bit of shadow. That's always quite a nice one to do. I'm going to come back into the purple. We've still got a little bit of this left and start to put some shadow in here. So again, this is sharper shadow. It's just going to help accentuate the detail really on the cap. So it's just a few lines on to dry. A little bit more, a bit stronger at the back there. If I take something quite warm now, I'm going to take a blob of cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow is opaque, so I'm hoping this is going to give a nice golden glow to the hair. I'm going to bring this over nice and carefully because I don't want to touch the hat that I've just done. And I don't want it so thick that you can't see the colours underneath. So I'm bringing this on to dry for a bit of a golden glow. But I want it to still be able to see those other colours underneath. I don't want to eliminate everything that I've got. And then I'm just going to dip into the sepia again and just darken a few areas. A bit of dark under the hat there. So that's working really nicely. Stroke a few bits through, but try and keep it to those patches. So when we take the masking fluid off, it will work really nicely. Okay, so if I now come into the sap green, what I'm going to do is just build up this foreground a little bit. So I've popped these grasses in. This is coming on to dry. I'm stroking upwards to create a grassy effect. I'm just using my round number 10, and the aim of this is to give a bit more depth in the foreground and to come over the masking fluid so that when I take it off it's going to show as lighter. So this is the sap green. I can dip a little bit into the ultramarine blue. Don't want it to be too strong. Blend it through. You can also do a little bit of the sepia. And I'm going to do the same this side. So sap green. So you're basically painting in really thick grasses. In similar tones to what you've already used. And you can then see straight away where that masking fluid is and the effect that it's going to have. Okay, so I'll dry that off. Okay, so that's dry now, and what I've got now is a masking fluid rubber. So it's a special rubber for removing glue and masking fluid. I'll pop a link. I found that you can get them quite cheap on Amazon, so I'll pop a link to one, and then at least you know what they are. And what you're going to do now is rub away. So what's going to happen is you're going to have some lighter, whiter highlights. You're going to have some darker ones where the paint's underneath. Now there's lots of ways we could have done these dotty bits. We could have painted them on with white gouache. My preferred method, if I'm painting anything on, is white acrylic ink because it's so much nicer than gouache. But you can see you're getting those dots just with the masking fluid. So I've tried to use less really, so that you're not having to buy too many products to do a picture. But if you wanted to use something different, you could. So this is the fantastic thing about masking fluid over paint now. Classically, you'll put it on the white of the paper and then have it to take off at the end, and then paint after. When you've put it over the paint, you get a beautiful effect, and you don't have to paint then over it. So you can see here, I'm getting those lights by the base colour underneath. Masking fluid does take a little bit of work. Nearly there. If when you've done, you just rub your hand over it, you'll feel if there's any bits left, and then you can go at it again with a rubber. You can do it with your fingers. Just as I've got older, my fingers don't like it as much as they used to. So we're nearly done. The last thing that I want to do is just sanity check the masking fluid. So if you've got anything that looks too blobby, you can break it up. So I can start doing that. In fact, I'm going to take a bit of a mix of green and blue, and just break up, if I've got any blobby bits, just break them up with a line. It's as simple as that, and it just stops it looking so blobby. It's like the hazard of masking fluid. If you've got any spots that are a little bit too spotty, you can also dot some of those in. I quite like the randomness really, so I'm not going to take too many of them off. And then the last thing you want to do is a very, very pale wash over the white of the hair. So that it can either be raw sienna, which is what I'm using now, or it can be a bit of cadmium yellow. So I just don't want it to be quite as white as it is, but it is giving me that sense of highlighted hair that I wanted. Hair is always quite hard to do in watercolour. And if you've got any blobby bits in the hair, which happens as well, then you can just break those up with a bit of sepia. So I've got a couple of blobby bits which I'm going to sort out in a second. So I just get a bit of sepia through that one, just the end of that one. Okay, I'll dry that off and pop a mount on. And there we go, so it's all finished. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I think students are often scared off by figures, and just by trying these easy, simple poses and getting the proportions right, it's actually a lovely paint to do. The drawing's a bit trickier, but the painting process is a lovely thing to do with a figure. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do like, subscribe and share. I'll pop you another video here, and I'll see you next time.